Inside Leominster is brought to you through the generous support of Colonial Insulation Company, residential and commercial insulation and fireproofing services, specializing in blown-in cellulose as well as spray foam insulation. For more information, visit their website, colonialinsulation.com. And by Medical Arts Hearing Instruments, 52 West Street in Leominster, locally and authentically providing better hearing and quality of life since 1978. www.donotshout.com.
Hello and welcome to Inside Leominster. My name is Dean Mazzarella, Mayor for the city, and yes, we're live tonight. Last week we were off for Thanksgiving, and hope you enjoyed it. As you know, Leominster High School Blue Devils beat the Red Raiders this year. The teams were going through the season, as you probably watched here, caught a couple of games here on LTV. It sounded like from a distance that the teams were pretty comparable. That it would be a blowout either way, but it seemed as though Leominster had the edge, and it wasn't a high-scoring game, but a good game, and cautious in many ways, but in terms of the throwing game or the running game. But in the end, Leominster prevailed and beat Fitchburg, so we're very happy for that. And once again, the mayor's office in Leominster wins the wager. Let's go right to the phones because we had a week off, and Art, I'm sure, was contemplating and sort of gathering his thoughts through the gathering, no pun intended, but was thinking about all the things he wanted to collect and then sort of share with us tonight. So let's go right to the Art report.
Well, there's a lot of space to use up in this head of mine, but got to start off with a big thank you to the DPW of our lovely city. An absolutely astounding job considering the weather pattern that we went through the last 2 days.
So just while we're on that, so the plan was get out there and get the streets open and keep them clean so trucks and people and get to and from work. We knew school would be canceled, but focus on that. And then on Tuesday, we were expecting another 4 inches, and then we would start cleaning up and pushing back. So nobody would really notice much of a difference. The problem is we got another foot on Tuesday, and that plan had to be scrapped in terms of pushing back. So now we had 2 storms to push back. So people had called us and said, geez, my mailbox is 4 feet from where they plowed. And so they went back to plow, and of course, they left drifts in front of people's driveways, obviously, because it was like starting over again, and the trucks were bigger, pushing back the snow. And we try to clean and take the plow blade and move it away from people's driveway, but sometimes there's just nothing you can do. But they did a great job. They worked really hard. It's tough. You get to that point where there's no amount of money that they can pay you to stay here after you're really tired. And so they did. They hung in there, went home, got a few hours sleep, came back, brought the sanders back out, and and there were a number of people who reported back and said they were in other communities all during Monday and Tuesday, and said by far, as soon as you hit Leominster, the streets are in good shape. So
there was no question. We in the middle of the following day, we had to go to Worcester for Rita's meet and greet with the doctor again, and I was proud just seeing what I saw on my way to Worcester versus how good Leominster looked. And a quick shout out to one of the DPW guys. I wish I had gotten his name. I was just finishing up my driveway and I heard something behind me, so I turned and it was a city truck with the plow down, and he was across the street from me, and he was smiling with the window down. I don't know him. So I walked over and I says, hey, I want to say thank you. Did a great job on the road. He says, you're welcome. I said, "You look kind of tired." He gave me a big smile, and he said, "Well, you know, we went out when this thing started, and then sent us home around 3 a.m. I got to sleep, and phone rang. I picked it up. It was 4 a.m. You got to come back in."
Yeah, yeah.
Because the thing, it was like a rebirth of a snowstorm.
It was incredible. And then it slowed
And I
down.
said, "Oh, God Almighty!" And now, I would be amiss if I didn't mention the football game, because the Philbin brothers. Kyle, I believe, is his first, or Scott. He's number 51. Anyway, if they ever want to send a recruiting film to a college, send this game. 5 sacks the kid had. What is he? 6'4", 235.
I saw him this morning. He's a
There's
big
a future
kid.
for him.
And a good.
I know his grandmother. We had a little date going back in the day in the '60s. Sheila, and that's her proud grandmother of the Philbins. And what a game! That kid was, and for him to get hurt, this stuff is made for movies.
Yeah, get back
They
up.
walk him off the field. They whatever happened starts to correct itself. He turns around, and in the very next play, he's all over the backfield making another sack. I mean, it was amazing.
You know, they had a lot of penalties, and that, I think, just comes from the whole anxiousness of the game.
Oh, no question about it.
Trying to, you know, you're so anxious, you know, just every single play means so much, but at the same time, you know, you just, it gets away from you a little bit, just enough to get a penalty. But that, I think, was most of the first half, and then things changed. It's kind of sort of like the Patriots game a couple weeks ago, where it seemed like they're having a difficult time, you know, staying away from the penalties, and then, you know, second half was a different game, but a close game, a good matchup. I like to see games that are. I don't like to see a blowout either way.
Yeah.
I like to see a good.
Yeah, this was special.
Yeah.
And they had Leominster had a touchdown call back too. And it was so frustrating. I was coming home from Framingham, listening to it on the radio, and just when there was something important going on, we'd lose the signal. Then it would come back. Then it would come on. I was halfway home before I realized that there was no score.
Right. It was 0-0. And I got to say, Todd and the whole crew at WPKZ, and then they sort of simulcast over live over the internet, over Facebook and the internet, and here at LTV, they do just an incredible job. I can listen to them at the same time while I'm there watching, and what an experience that is.
Yes, and a gentleman that I grew up with and hadn't seen in 60 years came to Leominster this summer, and we hooked up. And he was a LHS alum, and I saw the tape on my computer, and there was a way to send it, so I sent it to him in Indiana.
Wow.
He was thrilled. He watched the game.
Yep. I don't know. I mean, Kyle, do you have an idea of how many people are watching the Leominster game? I know. I can't even tell you how many people I had to send over the link to, and we posted it on Facebook and everything.
I think there was in excess of 4,000 that were watching the stream.
That's incredible. That's streaming out, or does that count Facebook?
Facebook didn't work on Thanksgiving.
Oh, it didn't?
Yeah, but our own webpage stream worked, and I'm guessing it was around 4,000 people.
Wow, that's a lot. And then you can catch it on the PKZ, right? You can catch it there, so you can stream that as well.
Yep.
So you have a couple of different options. And
that's probably the draw we get for the art report each week, 4,000.
There you go. There you go. And you know what? Your favorability is very high.
Yeah. Dennis, you can say that again. There's a term that I've heard nothing on the news lately. The favorability.
Favorability.
God almighty.
Yeah, it's.
Let's put this country back to work, people, and stop with the crap.
Yeah, and here's what's going to happen is people are going to tire out, and it's. I don't know, a couple articles that I read recently, clearly, the country's divided, and how do you find somebody or who is out there that's, that is going to sort of bring the country together, bring the ideas together? But it is a divided, very much divided, and I'm happy to see that at family functions, everybody has the rule. Nobody even talks about politics anymore. That's
No.
the best thing that's happened.
No, you're right. And I'll tell you, if that was in the private sector, that behavior, they wouldn't be there in the private sector. They'd be unemployed.
Well, I think what Congress has to do very quickly is get going on a transportation bill, a package that would help to build and rebuild our roads and bridges across the country. And it's going to take a little bit of work because people in Mississippi or Tennessee or southern part of Georgia think differently than us. It's going to take a little bit, but they really got to start working on that because let's say the economy does go the other way and starts to slow down. Of course, every 6 months they keep saying it's going to slow down. It hasn't yet, but eventually it will, and we know it will. It is a construction package that will keep the economy going in a sustainable way. It's not like you're putting people out and fabricating jobs for them. These are real needs within the country, in a transportation system that in many cases were built in the days of the Depression or the Industrial Revolution.
No question about it. In Boston, the political front in Boston, they've got to get their act together. I mean, EBT cards being spent in Hawaii. Hello.
Well,
brand new railroad cars for the subway system, and the wheels are falling off.
Yeah,
I mean,
8 of them. No,
it's crazy.
Well, I think the idea was 20-something years ago, at least when I started, was we're going to push everybody to what they call smart growth, and we're going to we're going to leave the farmland preserved, so nothing would go on in remote areas of the state, and everything would happen in metropolitan Boston, Framingham, Metro West, and that's where everything would be built. And that they were counting on people either walking or using public transportation. The only problem is the public transportation hasn't been built to keep up for the last 25 years.
No, and now the new ones that we buy with our taxpayer dollars are falling apart before they even use them.
Right, and so now you have, and I think a lot was predicted to be, that people, even I hear it today, that in 5 years, nobody will be in Boston with cars. No, they don't need to expand 128 or Route 2 because people will be using more public transportation. They'll be using driverless cars and all that. Little did they think about Uber. Think of Uber. Uber ties up, I forget how many trips they did in Massachusetts last year. It's I want to say like 50 million, some crazy amount. And nobody predicted Uber. And so what happens with Uber is, say you go to the airport, Uber leaves somebody off. One or two things happen. Either because you can't park there and it's expensive to park, so they just drive around. Yep. And that adds to the congestion at the airport.
Sure does.
Some of them get back out onto Route 1 and ride down on the free side of Revere, right? Not to pay to go back through the tolls. So they're down on Route 1 towards Revere and Saugus, East Boston, and they're adding to the congestion. And then once they get another fare, they'll pick the fare up and go back into the airport, pick somebody up, or pick somebody else up somewhere and then drive them into the airport. So now you got 10,000 cars trips a day being made by Uber that nobody predicted, that are clogging up
you're right.
the road. So you have all of those things out there, and it's become, came back today, came back yesterday, last week, it's become a 2-hour ride to get back from the city. And the sad part is, if you use Waze or one of these, GPSs, it takes you through neighborhoods where people bought in those neighborhoods because it was away, still close to the city, but away from all the congestion, all the noise, all the traffic. It's kind of like your street, right? Imagine if all of a sudden that street went through to Pierre Street and Waze took everybody, and here it is, 81.3 million Lyft and Uber drive. I think the governor said last night like 50 or something, but that's still incredible. That's a lot.
It's unbelievable. Well, all summer long, I couldn't help but mention to the guys golfing that in Gardner, I'm heading up Route 2 at 6 o'clock in the morning to go golf. It's like a mass exodus coming out, heading towards Boston, coming out of Gardner area.
Well,
every town from 50 miles out after Gardner, I'm talking bumper to bumper, solid lines, traffic like you've never seen.
So
amazing.
So now the opportunity is going to come the opportunity will be that companies in the city, in the inner city, will have to assess exactly if they need to be in the city and how much of the business needs to be in the city. So, for instance, Bristol Myers Squibb is in Devens on the manufacturing end. So they realized, and I'm not speaking for the company, this is what I suspect happened, is they realized that they needed to, not the whole operation needed to be in Cambridge or Boston, especially in Cambridge, because they need to be near the universities, et cetera. And that's where the brain power is. And so what they figured out is, well, not the whole company needs to be there, but some of the company. So they take some of that company and they move that company to Cambridge. And there's a couple different companies, I think, that make up Bristol Squibb, some offsprings of the company. So now I think what will happen is they'll figure out what really needs to happen, what of their staff really needs to be there, and what staff can either work from home or can move out in this direction. Because you can't
get right on the money with that one. I hear more and more people working from home.
You can't get through Cambridge. You cannot get through Somerville. You can't get through 16 and Everett and Medford and Melrose. You just cannot get through those, through those towns. And whether it's the Braintree split off of 93 or 128, that it just stops. So if you think about people are driving 2 hours a day, and they said yesterday, the study shows the most expensive commute in the country. Companies are going to start to look and say, my employees are getting up at 4 in the morning, they're hitting the road, and then they're on the road. So by the time I get to them, by the time they get here at 9 o'clock,
they're spent.
And they're doing brain work, right? They're not doing piecework here, or or putting handles on buckets, or or working maintenance or construction, or some are. But they're already brain beat already, and they got a 2-hour commute home. Yep. And so companies are going to start to look and say, well, how much of my company really needs to be here? And are there things that we can do somewhere else? And we have to start thinking of our employees, and 4 hours of their life and 4 hours of their day is spent commuting, and they don't get paid for that. And it becomes a very expensive commute.
No doubt about it, my friend.
$48 to park for 4 hours or more in the city of Boston. I can park in Manhattan cheaper than I can park in Boston.
That's crazy. It's absolutely nuts.
Something's going to give. What? So the whole planning part, as I look back 26 years ago on what the plan was, it sounded good. Smart growth and let's develop in the right places. And now it's let's develop around the train stations and put housing there and retail and housing. That certainly is it's kind of like how the cities were built, right? Downtown Leominster was built, and manufacturing was built with neighborhoods around it.
Yeah,
and
that's
you
right.
walk to the Piggly Wiggly, or you were in
all
Fitchburg.
All the areas are like that around here. Gardner's the same.
Exactly.
All the old furniture mills and stuff.
And so today, it's a replication of that. The only problem is there was a big count. It was a big prediction of that people would be using public transportation to get everywhere. There wouldn't be cars on the street, but public transportation, as of now, isn't reliable enough, and it's not. It can't handle all the people. So they didn't build it. As more and more people wanted to use public transportation, there were incentives to do so. It wasn't as comfortable, and they didn't build a system to accommodate. I mean, every meeting I go to, my MassDOT meeting, when we get there, it's sometimes hours of people saying they can't catch the train, they can't get buses in from East Boston, they can't get in from Chelsea.
Can't get in, can't get out.
It's hours of that.
Yep.
And so,
who needs it?
The governor just, they're in their 5th year. They understood when they first got here, but they can't go back, retroactive 20 years and catch up. They're trying, but it's going to be a big feat. So.
Well, we just solved half the problems. Maybe we can see that we can look to the future now.
Well,
and having said that, Merry Christmas to everybody.
That's it for the Art Report. Thank you, Art. And
you're welcome.
And my best to the wishes, and I assume she's coming along well.
The doctor said things are getting better, but she's looking at well into February.
That's okay.
Yes.
Day by day.
Yes, it is.
As long as he knows an end to it, right?
You got it. You got that right.
All right,
Thanks
Art.
again. Bye-bye.
Take care, buddy.
Yep.
978 888-537-7760. That's the number to call. We spent about 10 minutes on that. We talked a little bit about snow removal. So we're going to take a break in a minute and come back with Mark Piermarini, Assistant Director of the DPW. But just wanted to tell you what the plan is from here on in. They'll be doing some snow removal downtown, moving some of those bankings on the intersections. They'll be going back and taking care of some of the complaints in the different neighborhoods where maybe cars were on the street and they couldn't plow as good as they wanted to. It's been a long week, and so we'll get through that. And then predicting warmer weather, I think, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and maybe some rain. And we'll have to make sure that, catch basins are open and clean so they can handle any water that comes about. Caller, welcome to the show.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Crystal, how are you?
I made it home safe.
You didn't have a far walk tonight, did you?
No, your friend Elizabeth brought me home.
Oh, how nice. Well, thank you, Elizabeth.
Yep.
Santa will be
So
on.
how have you been?
Santa will be on in a couple weeks, live here.
Yay.
He makes one appearance in this area with his sleigh and reindeer, and that's right here at LTV at Inside Leominster, so we'll have that
Oh, I
live.
remember that last year.
Yes, it's our #1 show of the year,
Yep.
other than Kyle when he's doing high diving in Miami Beach. Other than that, that's the #2 show.
That's like he's bragging with that one.
Yes, Kyle's a big bragger. He's came back from his whirlwind vacation, and he's growing a little beard kind of thing there. What is that called? Like a Fu Manchu or something, Kyle? It's like
Yeah.
a Vincent van Gogh look. Kyle's got the artistic look. All right, Crystal.
Talk to you later, buddy.
Free French fries for all.
Okay.
All right, when
buddy.
you get to work, just start giving out French fries. Tell everybody they're on me.
How was your free jacket?
Awesome. I got the best jacket in the world. Everybody loves it. People often
You
buy
can
it.
tell them. You can tell them that you're one of the managers, and you can get free fries.
I'm going to send it to my friend Peter Napoli. I'm going to take a picture and send it to him and say, Peter, I've known you for so long, and it took my buddy Crystal to get me a coat from McDonald's. Right?
I'll see you at the stroll, buddy.
All right, free French fries for everybody.
Yeah, take care, bud.
Free French fries for all. That's a question we'll ask in our next
Take care,
survey.
bud.
Who's got the best French fries? Okay, we're going to take a short break, and we're coming back because we're going to talk about some of the projects at the DPW. And so we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back. Gerard taking a bow. There was a great performance by both bands and great fellowship there at the Breakfast of the Bands held in Leominster this year. I wasn't sure what the turnout was going to be. It was sort of a raw, rainy day, I think, but it was probably one of the largest crowds they've had. Caller, welcome to the show. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
I can hear you. We're going to turn up the volume a little bit back there, and then I can hear you. Go ahead.
How is that?
Perfect.
Hey.
Yes.
How you doing, Dean?
Good. Everything's good.
Okay, question.
Yes.
on my truckers news station in the morning back in September, they were talking about the Johnny Appleseed Festival, and he's from Freeport, Louisiana.
The festival in Leominster?
Yes, they did. They talked about. I talked about how we dress up. They couldn't pronounce Leominster very well. Mm-hmm. How many years has been doing?
Yep.
And I called in. I told them what we have for a festival, and they said very well on it. Thanks for calling it.
Wow. So is that what show is that?
That's Dave Nemo talk show on Sirius Radio, 147 Road Dog Channel.
It's a trucker show?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I love listening, especially at night. I used to listen to them on AM, right? And I love listening. It's so remarkable to hear some of the stories about some of the truckers and where they are.
Yep.
And it's interesting. I love listening to them.
But it amazed me, in September when they told us, well, Leominster, Massachusetts has a Johnny Appleseed Festival, and every year, and Johnny Chapman about how he moved, left Leominster, went down south, and spreading his apples, and it's pretty neat. Nice to hear it, though.
My cousin lives in Fort Wayne. They're originally from Leominster, moved down there because of work, and and that's where he passed away, is in Fort Wayne, Indiana. But when you're out of the state and you bring up Johnny Appleseed, you say Johnny Appleseed was born in Leominster, the first reaction is, what, he was a real person? And I said, yeah, he was a real person, John Chapman.
Yeah, I told him how we got a character dressed up as him with a little tin pot in his hat. Mm-hmm. And the city over here gives out apples to all the kids. We have a big festival.
Yep.
We're very happy to hear about it.
Well, look at you. You're like the ambassador to Leominster now.
Right.
So how often do you listen to the show?
Oh, every day, 6 days a week.
And are they on during the daytime too, or just at night?
Yeah, he comes on at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he's off at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, okay. But is it still trucker show all night too, right into the evening?
Yeah, that's Dave Nemo. They do have
other people that
other people after 11 o'clock. They have other people talking about trucking, financing, but Dave Nemo talks about all these different things around the United States.
Right. Oh, that's cool. I have to listen. I have Sirius in my office, and what channel is it? 147.
Yep. 146.
146.
Road Dog Channel.
I'll listen.
Yep.
Well, thank you for promoting the city.
Yes, I thank you very much too. Also.
Yeah. Good. Did anybody call later? Or did he know much about Johnny Appleseed?
Yeah, I told him what I know from crying out loud, and he said, "Oh, that's good to hear." And other people, yeah, we heard of John Chapman. We heard of Johnny Appleseed, and they go, Leominster.
Yeah, Leominster.
Right.
Well, my GPS says Leominster.
Yep.
Right.
But we told him we'd have it every year in September.
Yep.
And he brings it up every September. He brings it up. They must have a calendar to remind him stuff like that.
They do. Yep.
And the other thing, the visitor center, you put a giant Johnny Appleseed sculpture over there.
There's a Johnny Appleseed, but there's an apple over there too now.
Right.
Giant apple.
I was by there last summer, and people were out of state having their pictures taken.
Yes. That was something that was put there by the chamber. But it's a good photo op, as they say.
Yes, it is. So I thought I'd tell you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, and I'll listen. I'll be listening. Like I said, I used to listen at night. They had a couple of shows that were trucker shows, and I love listening.
46 goes all night, all day and all night.
I love listening. They talk about those truck stops and how to eat healthy if you're a trucker, and people talk about what they're carrying and where they're, especially in a snowstorm, when you hear them saying, "Hey, I pull over and haven't been able to move in 2 days," and it's kind of cool.
I've been listening to them. They say how the Dakotas are getting real bad, severe weather, cold, snow.
It's fun to listen. It's fun to listen. All right. Hey, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. You get the badge for the Ambassador of the Year.
Thank you very much.
All right.
You take care.
Okay. 978-537-7760. Number to call. Mark Piermarini is the Assistant Director at the DPW. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dean.
I know we've got 2 weeks to catch up on. That's what happened, is we haven't been on for a couple of weeks. Anyway, a lot going on.
Oh, yes.
We got this, this back-to-back storm that, the Boston weather kept talking about. After our first storm, it went 100% to Boston's going to get a big snowstorm, and we're preparing, and state of emergency, and they got like 2 inches of snow. In the meantime, their weather people are saying we're going to get maybe 4 to 5 inches additional after the first storm, and we're looking outside our windows saying, what are you talking about? There's like 10 inches of snow out here on top of the 12 we got yesterday, and you're talking about, and it's going to taper off, and we're looking outside saying it's not tapering off.
So 2 feet.
Yeah, it's just crazy to have the first storm of the season. And typically the DPW, people that plow will stay a little bit away from the curb because a lot of people's lawns go out to the curb.
Correct.
And it wasn't frozen. I was digging in the ground the day before, and there was maybe an inch of frost.
Yep.
And so if you go by one of those big plows, you just tear everything up, sprinkler systems and everything. So they try to stay away from that. But then we got the first storm, thought we'd push back later on.
No.
With the extra 4 inches, then we got an extra 12 inches. So it made it, now you're pushing 2 feet of snow
Correct.
back.
And we
then
pushed back
people ended
today.
up within their driveway, and it loosened up once the heat hits it. And so it didn't go according to our weather plans, but we still reacted, and by tomorrow we'll be in perfect shape. I think in most cases, most streets are in good shape. So a couple new things that have happened.
Yep.
The MS4 permit process is a federal mandate pushed down to the communities. Explain what that is, because we use that term all the time,
The
and
MS4.
I often hear people looking at us at meetings saying,
What's
MS4?
Well, MS4 is a municipal separate storm sewer system. That's where you get the 4 S's, so MS4. And the EPA put this on to, what we have to do is test all our outfalls, drainage outfalls. But the first part, it's a 10-year program.
Places where storm drain water would
Correct.
come out, and there are dozens of these things.
Oh, yeah, we have over 400.
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean, they're
city.
just
Yeah.
a pile of these things, but they all have to be tested.
Correct.
And somebody has to go out and test them.
Yeah, and we have a person designated for that at the DPW. And the first round is, first 3 years is wet weather testing, which means if it's dry out for a few days, it's wet testing, which means an outfall is flowing when it's dry, so there's water coming out of it
So
when
you
it's
get a
dry out.
baseline
Yes,
of what
correct.
the quality of the water is before you get a huge
Correct.
rainstorm. Because a huge rainstorm will just flush it out.
And-
You want to know what's going on
Correct.
before that.
And we test the outfalls, and there's certain chemical limits, and if you get a hit on an outfall, we end up trying to chase it back to find out, okay, where is that, say detergent coming from, if there's a detergent coming out of the drain.
Right. Or in a case where we own a lot of the open space and the land, sometimes bacteria levels will be high
Correct.
because of the animals.
Correct.
There are no houses up there,
You got it.
so you can follow it all the way back. You're not going to find a septic system because
Correct.
there isn't anything up there. Sort of things like that. So the purpose is to, it's an environmental thing. And I have no issue with it, except for they didn't provide any funding
Yeah.
for this. So we have to hire people to do this.
Correct.
It's an unfunded sort of mandate where they say, well, you have to do this, but we're not going to give you the money to do it.
You're right.
Now, I understand it protects the watershed, our water supply, because the last thing you want is things making their way. For instance, there are people with old cesspools,
Correct.
not here, but some of the towns say, and there are old leach field systems. There are, it could be a car wash that was
Correct.
50 years old that somehow or another, every once in a while, there's an overflow.
Correct.
And that drain that everybody thought used to go and be treated is not. It's making its way into the storm drain system. We want to catch that, find out what it is, because we really want clean water
Yeah.
going into the,
And
to
if
the,
we
to
find
the
it,
river.
correct, if we find it, we want to fix, help them fix it, get that out of the storm drain system.
Right. So that's important. So the water that, it also controls the water from your property, needs to stay on your property
Correct.
to be handled in that fashion.
Yep.
Whereas a lot of people would take their water and just pitch it out to the street. I was watching a parking lot, I assume they're grandfathered in, and they were paving it, one of the businesses in town, and they just pitched everything to the street because that's what it was. Well, all of that, everything that was on there, when the rain hits that hot parking lot, everything, that all makes its way into that storm drain
Yeah,
system.
into our system, correct.
And so we need to know, right?
Yeah, and any new projects, they have to provide infiltration back into the ground so they're getting less water into our system.
Right. And then the culvert, that's such an interesting project. So the state came up with this program, and they said, there are a lot of small bridges in the state that don't qualify for any assistance. Every time we try to put in for a grant, they always say, oh, no, we don't, that's too small of a project. So like $500,000, $600,000. So we have a number of culverts around the city because we're surrounded by 12 hills. Water flows downhill and eventually makes its way to the low points. So take all that area of Wachusett Street and Elm Street. Where's all that water go? Ends up down, cutting
Fallbrook,
through
Minnesota.
Fallbrook, cutting through Litchfield Street near the Pop Warner Fields, near Union Street. And lo and behold, we get a grant for $500,000. And so they decided to do the job in December before the grant period runs out.
Correct.
We had some issues because we found a gas line and things we didn't know were there. And so we finally start the job, and I'm looking at this, and I thought, I've driven over this 1,000,000 times. It's 30 feet to the bottom. I mean,
It's deep.
like, I can't believe how deep this hole is. There's equipment in the hole.
Yeah.
So we got some pictures.
Oh,
Do we
yeah.
have some pictures tonight?
Yes.
I know Wendy was going to prepare some pictures. Let's show those photos, if we could, of the culvert. So this is a $500,000 small bridge grant project by MassDOT. And let's go to our first slide. Or do I have to control the slides? Oh, there we are.
That's the existing culvert.
That's
that
what it
was
looked
there.
like.
Yeah.
But this pipe was huge.
Yeah.
Was it 4 or 5 feet tall?
Yeah, it's actually 7 feet tall.
7 feet
Yeah,
tall.
9 feet wide.
But when you drive by, it doesn't look that
No.
big. And you drive by in a second, you look over, and you're like, oh, that's a nice little, pretty culvert pumping out water.
But if you go in it, you'll see that the bottom was rotting.
I saw it when they
rotting
pulled it
yeah.
out. Go ahead, next slide. And this is, they're creating an area to
Correct, to put the new culvert.
to be able to work in there.
Yep.
And another photo here, if you could. Now that's actually equipment down
Yes.
in the base of this, installing these giant
Concrete, precast concrete.
precast concrete
Sections.
Kind of put it all together.
They're 15 feet wide by 9 feet high. We'll see them on one of these pictures.
All right, let's go to the next photo. There it is.
There it
That's
is,
when I
yeah.
saw it like that. I was like, wow.
And this culvert's designed to the Mass stream standards, stream and river standards, which means it's big enough for wildlife and fish to get through.
Right.
They've designed them that way.
That's amazing. Is there another slide that goes with this? It was, no, that was
I
it.
think that was.
I was just amazed.
That's
to
where
see
they're at, actually.
the size. And so they have another section to put in?
Yeah, they actually placed it today. We don't have
Today.
a picture of that, but and then they have the last 2 wing walls, and then once they've done that, the National Grid will come and relocate that gas line that was there. So
And it'll all be done. I mean, they'll be out of there. And,
yeah,
you
hopefully
know,
they're going to binder it this year. It'll be
Right.
filled
Let
and
it
binder.
settle.
Correct. And
there's
then
a lot to
top-
settle.
Oh yeah, then top
especially
next
this time
spring.
of year. So that'll be done, and then it doesn't get to the point. And I know we had to shut the street, but I try to explain to people that use that area. I said, you know what? If we don't do this, what's going to happen is it's going to get to the point where trucks can't go over it, cars can't go over it, exclusions shut the thing down because it's unsafe because the bottom is literally rotting out.
Correct. You save money this way too. with decreased cost because of decreased time.
$200,000
Yep,
more
yep.
to
To
do
put
it.
one lane, yeah.
One lane and add all the lights. And then the last thing is the grant pending for the Nashua River Stream Bank. So one day, a couple of times I'm coming to work, and I'm coming from Nashua Street. I take a right on the connector, and I look over, and it's fall, so I can, or spring, and I can see. And I said to Pat LaPointe at the time, I said, Pat, have you seen behind the treatment plant? And he said, no, I haven't seen it. What's going on? I said, the trees are coming down, and these extreme storms are cutting into the riverbank, and they keep cutting in, and we're losing large trees. So when the water comes around the corner from the treatment plant, it's cutting in slowly, and it's getting closer. It's not close to the street, but it's getting closer. So there was another section that that Army Corps of Engineers came into and actually repaired, but we thought it was all done, and so I brought it to his attention, and then finally, now we're able to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to put in for a grant, and we're in the final round of that, and so they've gotten kind of tricky, the Army Corps of Engineers, in terms of what projects they'll take on.
Yeah, but they were actually, we talked to them about this, and they were for this project when we talked to them on the phone. And it's $875,000 estimated cost, and it's a 400-foot long section. It's armored by the connector, and it's armored by the plant.
Right.
So the section between those two that needs to be, armored again with riprap. Because, I mean, eventually, if it kept eroding, we do have a major sewer main over there, and we don't want it to get close to that.
And that thing, those storms must have a lot of velocity. I mean, they must have a lot of power because they're taking trees down. I'm talking 40, 50-foot
I've seen
trees,
'em.
just grabbing them and taking them down through a storm. And, that goes back to climate change and what people believe is global warming or whatever. But clearly, there's a pattern here, weather pattern of severe weather that we've got to look out to. So one of the projects Army Corps did was on Exchange Street. And they did sort of the same,
Slack Brook.
Slackbrook stabilized the walls, and that seems to be effective.
working good.
But I was amazed at the equipment. They actually pick it up with a crane and like stick it down the hole. It's just intriguing. So those are three big projects. Anything else that's happening that you want to?
Well, we have, and I think you have it on the website, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program.
Yes, the
That's
MVP.
coming up.
Next week?
Yes, next week. That we're.
I think I have that.
We'll have a lot of community members come in and talk about projects that we need. You know, this is a grant program again where we're going to go through projects that the city may need for vulnerability in the city. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to go to
And
that meeting.
there's money that goes behind that.
Yes.
We're going to need to identify the sources and then the solutions and how to control those. But we really have had some like major storms. And you get down around the synagogue in that area, that just one bad storm, and it's just it's how fast it comes down in the length of time.
Correct.
Like minutes.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. And the systems weren't designed. No system was designed to handle that amount of water in that amount of time. So you'll be part of that as
Oh, yes.
well.
Yep.
Wendy's helping to organize that. It's coming up next week.
We have other projects too. I was just thinking off the top of my head is down at the wastewater treatment plant, we're going to be putting in to help the nutrient removal down there, new aeration system and primary and secondary clarifiers. So we're kicking off just the design portion of that in
Right.
next week, actually, next Friday.
There's no end to wastewater treatment or sewer.
Keeps
There's never final point when you get there and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, we're done. It's just, you just got to keep it up. And that's why smaller communities have been encouraged to tie into bigger communities
Correct.
that have a system, because it's so expensive to build systems today. It's kind of like lakes and ponds. The state doesn't want to, fund any money to clean ponds or lakes for swimming, because the requirements of, to meet the standards of to be able to swim in clean water, it's far less expensive to build a water park or a pool. Pools aren't cheap either, but in the case of, here at Barrett Pond, I mean, every time we get the water clean, it was only a matter of weeks before, the clarity wasn't correct, or there was, something in the water that we needed to close it for. And so it presents its own set of issues. So you're never there with treatment, water and sewer and compliance, but we do a good job. And I say the old days. Roger says the old days of water when the big plants around and didn't recycle water. They do use 13 million, 12 million gallons a day.
Yeah,
Today
they're
we
not
use
there.
4.
Yeah.
Which is remarkable. A lot of it is people conserved and put water saver toilets and just conserve water today. And we're more conscious of that, and that's a good thing. It makes way for opportunities for new business.
Yep.
Anything else, Mark, before we close out?
If you want, one more thing is that just so the residents know, as the community, the No Town plant, we're actually piloting the ActiFlow system for that organic carbon that we had the issue
we
of
had that
over a year
problem,
ago.
yeah. We had to send notices to
Yeah.
everybody.
So we rectified it short term, but we're working on a pilot project to get it long.
And that was nothing but a natural reaction.
Correct.
And sometimes people think Mother Nature can cause those things. Just like I said, we have high bacterial levels sometimes because of the animals in our open space.
It gets washed in.
And the wildlife. And people, I'm like, really? Well, first time I heard of it, I said, really? We don't know about open space? Who's up there? What are they doing? They have an illegal house up there or something? They're like, no, it's probably habitat.
Yeah. That's just about all the large projects that I can think of.
Well, good. And it's going to be another busy year. We'll use the winter for planning.
Oh, yes.
And then it'll be spring before long, and off we go again.
New construction season.
And I have to say, the feedback, I was at an event the other day, and 4 or 5 people, a couple said, hey, we really noticed the difference in the quality, the condition of the roads, and how smooth they are, and less potholes. And so that was something that we planned over several years, but people are beginning to notice it now, and we'll continue on that, trying to do more paving than we've ever done on top of the money that we get from the gas tax money, and it seems to be something that people are supportive of.
It worked well this year.
Yeah, and it's noticeable, clearly noticeable.
And we got more in the spring.
Yeah, we're ready to go. Spring, see, we haven't had our
Let's
first day
think
of winter. We're ready to go. Hey, Mark, thanks for
Thank you, Dean.
coming on with us, and we're going to take a short break, and they're going to come back with photos of the week, and we'll tell you about the stroll, and just so much going on. There's a whole packet here, so I got 15 minutes to pull it off.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dean.
Mark. We'll take a short break.
December 1st, 1795. Jonas Henry Kendall is born at the Kendall Tavern on West Street. He donated much to Leominster causes, including $5,000 for the building of Kendall Hall in the North Village.
Ready.
Okay, presented to the town of Leominster for the special benefit of North Village by L.C. Burridge, Boston, January 1st, 1865.
And so the clock is up there, and this gearage is running the hands, is it?
Yep. One more level, you will be in the clock.
We are in the Belfry Tower of Kendall Hall looking at
There's
the bell.
There's the hammer. See the hammer?
There's the hammer for hammering the bell. And there's the bell itself, which was taken from the old number 10 and number 11 schoolhouse over on Hamilton Street when that school was closed and the children started coming to school here in Kendall Hall.
Ward number 10, North Leominster, Massachusetts, by J. Henry Kendall,
Jonas Henry Kendall himself.
July 1856.
Okay, we're gonna have to show everybody this turret.
How interesting, huh? And that's something you can see here on LTV and see the whole clip. Nice job. And good job to the fire department. They keep that clock up there running. And I think they shut off in the beginning part of, or the end of the fall, and then turn it back on in the spring. Hey, let's do photos of the week. You guys ready for that? Let's do pictures of the week. We have lots of them. Here we go. We're at the chamber breakfast. This is the one where Mark Bonanza spoke about his new book on the history of Leominster, as well as the governor of the state of Massachusetts. And there's Mark signing some of his books, and the governor and I stopped by on our way out as Mark autographed a book and inserted a personal note to the governor. And there we are, the flag dedication at the CTEI honoring Veterans Day. And that flag and pole was put up to honor Jonathan Roberge. And so the flag was a little bit worn, and so it was replaced. And the students from CTEI came out, and it was a nice, very nice ceremony. And there we are celebrating Veterans Day at St. Anna's, and they do that every year. They have this activity and this celebration in honor of our veterans. And there are a number of veterans that show up, and the kids make them cards, and they sing songs. It's really a nice event. Hats off to St. Anna's. And then we had a full house again for celebrating Veterans Day to honor and thank all of the veterans. And it was the feedback was people liked the fact that there weren't a whole lot of speeches. We heard from the songbirds, and it was more of a dedication and recognition of our veterans. And so in speaking with Richard Votor, we plan on keeping it that way. Short on speeches and more on recognition, gratefulness, and thankfulness. Congratulations to Mrs. Pino of the Veterans Teacher of the Year. She was not able to make it to the event for Veterans Day, so we moved the event to her classroom, grade 1 at Fallbrook School. So thank you. She was our Veterans Teacher of the Year. And congratulations to Joe Ryzeski and Gabriella Laravie. And they were, Joe Ryzeski's dad was a police officer in Leominster. Gabriella I think she was a dispatcher before. She was so excited, both of them so excited. We've got so many new police and firefighters, DPW workers, and workers, clerical workers coming in, and they're all one better than the other. We've got a great crew, great team. So congratulations to Gabriella and Joe. And how could I forget? This is probably one of the neatest fairs ever. Anybody who ever went to St. Cecilia's, who goes to St. Cecilia's, has ever lived on French Hill, driven through French Hill, shows up for this fair. It's probably the largest one I've ever seen. I go to a lot of church fairs, not just here in the city, but all over. And was just a fun time to see everybody that grew up on French Hill and the East Side. And thanks to Adam Carbone and LTV, because we did the Randy's comic, and it's a story about a artist and who just so happens to be autistic. And Adam was played the lead role. It was an excellent movie, and so we bought a copy of the movie, and it's at the library if you'd like to see it. Honest, it's a really good quality movie. You may have your suspicions about what the quality is, because it's not a big-time, multi-million-dollar movie, but I'll tell you what, I got to be honest with you, it is equivalent, and the acting is good, the music is good, and thanks to everybody, Stephanie, my daughter, with the Leominster Autism Project, and everybody else that came out to support it. It was a really nice night. She had to change the date, which affected the attendance a little bit, but we did put a copy at the library, and you should pick it up and watch it. It's a really good movie. And there we are, Randy's canvas, and there's Jerry Caruso on the right, Stephanie in the front, Adam on the left, and me in the middle. So we had fun, even after. And there's Leominster Autism Project gets a boost, and they put together these little sensory kits that they could leave off at each of the schools. Stephanie Fatman was there, clerk of courts in the Worcester Probate Court, and D.A. Early, and myself, and so anyway, it was, we're very thankful, and they all worked together to get these kits out to the schools. Congratulations to Leominster Credit Union. Started here on Lancaster Street 65 years ago. And everybody remembers Seth Fermani and Stachi Perler and Pete Bracani and all of those. 65 years ago, Leominster Credit Union, look where they are now. And Joe's Produce, grand opening there on Hamilton Street. And what an incredible business they've built. And I was in that business at one time. And I got to tell you, I thought they were just a small operation with a couple of trucks. They are a huge operation, and they were doing their grand opening over there on Hamilton Street. We want to be there to congratulate them. They also gave, I don't know how many hundreds of pounds of food and produce to Ginny's, as well as, I don't know if it was Our Father's Table in Fitchburg, but they gave to a charity in Fitchburg and one into Leominster. See that pallet of potatoes on the left and the pallet of onions on the right? That was all donated. That was their donation. Great people, and Joe, his son, is taking over, and so we congratulate them in their location here in the city of Leominster. And Pippin was the play here at the high school, and incredible talent by the performers. They worked very hard, good music, and yeah, we had a good time. Barnes & Noble fundraiser, and there we were reading my favorite book. What is it? It's my favorite book. It's Dragons Love Tacos. That's it. My brain's got a little foggy here. Low on sleep this week. Anyway, I had a great audience, and the kids had a ball, and I love reading this book. And if you've got an organization or a bunch of kids together and you want me to read this book, just call me, because I love, every time I read it, I like it more and more. Getting ready for the holidays. The crews are downtown, installing lights. They were still there this morning installing lights. I don't think some of the crews, lighting companies that we hired, thought we were going to end up with 2 feet in the ground. And look at Sally Poria, who does all the flowers downtown, and Larry, did these before the snowstorm and created these beautiful, beautiful presentations, these beautiful, beautiful displays for the holidays. And it was Sally's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday. And there we are, breakfast of the bands, Mayor Mylod, and also Lou Evangelitis, the sheriff of Worcester County. It was really a nice day. They did a nice job up there at the high school, Leominster Fitchburg, Rotary putting this together. It's a fundraiser for the schools. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Here's another picture of the band playing. Leominster High School pregame banquet. Thank you to the Elks and the Leominster High boosters, the parents, the cheerleaders, everybody that helps put these things together. It was a great banquet. It's the night before the game. It kind of revs everybody up and puts things in perspective. Leominster High School was victorious. And then we had a an event for the Bob Soucy. He's a great guy, and it was a family event. Jerry Caruso was the comedian. Paul Durantz was also there to perform, and we had a good time. We had a bunch of nice people. Got a chance to meet a whole slew of new people, and Bob in recovery for second round, I think third round of cancer. And then today we're at Mrs. Murphy's class, bright and early, and I'll tell you, they have a great class that meets there once a week at 6:45. I am encouraged for the future of the city and the country. Great minds in that room, and I hope they invite me back because I really like tapping their mind. Today was mostly me speaking about, sort of the need to engage younger people in the future of the city, but we had some fun. And there they are, just lining up, filling up those trucks and removing all the snow in the parking lots downtown. And talk about resiliency. Those kids at Southeast, as soon as it's bright enough and light enough to come out and slide, they're out there. And then we have a new office supervisor. That's my grandson, Donovan. And he was at City Hall. He has not figured out where the M&M machine is, but he figured out where everything else was. And that is our photo of the week. Okay, here we go. St. Mark's is having their bazaar at 60 West Street, December 6th, 5 to 8, Saturday, December 7th, 9 to 1. And please stop by. Festival of Trees. If you haven't been by, we've done a couple of commercials and everything. This is probably our best year. We've really stepped it up. Economy seems to be better. People are spending more. Remember, donations. You get to donate what you think is the best tree, and then we give out awards. But it also, at the end, when those trees are sold, it benefits the Mayor's Energy Fund and other city events. You can go there weekdays 9 to 4, Thursdays until 5:30. And weekdays 11 to 3, and all bidding ends December 16th at 6 p.m. Breakfast with Santa at Leominster High School for the Life Skills Program. That's coming up. Where's the date on this? Why can't I see it? I don't see a date. Saturday, December 7th, 9 to 11. Leominster High School is $5 per person. Tickets available at the door. The Festival of Trees, as I said, continues to December 16th. This weekend is the stroll. Listen, if it gets a little cool, everybody's got 1,000 coats. Dress warm, put a hat on and gloves, and don't show up without any gloves. Don't show up without a hat. Wear warm. Don't show up in your dancing shoes. Wear something warm. You won't have a problem at all. And this is probably our biggest and best winter stroll. We have some new things that are going to be there. We have a little warming center in the old Yours Truly in the marketplace. So you'll be able to stop. If you do catch a chill, you've walked all over, you're tired, the kids are a little restless, stop in there. It's 3 to 5. 3 to 5, you should be able to see everything. Then the parade of lights, is at 5 o'clock, and then the tree lighting following. And then on December 14th, next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday, from 5 to 10, we have a whole list of places that you can go around the city. Rather than driving through every streetcar, we put out a whole list. Dale Page is going to be December 8th at the Leominster Public Library doing a holiday performance. Again, that's this coming Saturday Sunday at 2 o'clock. Passport Day event in the Leominster Public Library is December 7th from 9 to 1. Montechusett Chorale, Sound of the Seasons, to benefit the Catholic Charities Women's Recovery Home. That's coming up this coming Sunday, December 8th at 2 o'clock at City Hall. It's $12 in advance in our office. You get tickets $15 at the door. Under 18 is free. And you can also get them and use the website, montechussettchorale.org, and use PayPal. And then Drake Holiday Festival will be next week. We'll talk about that on the 14th. December 13th and 14th is Mark Marquis. I haven't missed one yet. The most peaceful night of the year, a night of music with Mark Marquis and friends. Don't want to miss it, really. This puts you right in the move over at the UU Church. And then there's a Christmas concert coming up with the Leominster Colonial Band. A 30-piece concert coming up Sunday, December 15th, 2 o'clock p.m. It's free admission, Leominster City Hall. Don't want to miss it. A whole lot going on. Check the website. Check out our Facebook page. We're out of time. Good night. God bless you. Thank you to the whole crew at LTV for showing up here every Thursday night. Good night.
Inside Leominster is brought to you through the generous support of Colonial Insulation Company, residential and commercial insulation and fireproofing services, specializing in blown-in cellulose as well as spray foam insulation. For more information, visit their website, colonialinsulation.com. And by Medical Arts Hearing Instruments, 52 West Street in Leominster, locally and authentically providing better hearing and quality of life since 1978. www.donot shout.com.